Good morning.
Good morning.
I will call today's meeting of the Sports Authority to order. We'd like to thank the Nashville Sounds and First Horizon Park for hosting us today, and we'll look forward to hearing much more from you later in this meeting. I'd also like to acknowledge and welcome Council Member Brett Withers. Thank you for being here, Councilman. At this time, we'll have consideration of the meetings from the September 15, 2022 meeting. You can find those behind tab 1 in your binder, and hopefully you've had an opportunity to review them.
Move for approval.
Second. Any discussion, questions, corrections? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Thank you. We're really excited to have a women's sports spotlight this morning. We will be celebrating Miss Jean Patton Latimer. So at this time, what I'm going to do is turn it over to former Sports Authority Chair Arnett Bodenhammer, right here in the corner, and we're going to ask Director Melvin Gill to join him.
Jean and I attended Pearl High School. Now, I want everybody to understand what I said, Pearl High School, not Pearl Cone. We attended Pearl, which is now Martin Luther King Magnet School. Jean was a 1949 graduate of Pearl. I was a little bit later, but I'm still so old I forget what I'm doing sometimes. But I want you to know that this young lady came out of Pearl High School in 1949. We had no track. And she did herself, started painting, here I go, running at a May Day program. How many used to have May Days at school? But anyway, it was a May Day event, and somebody asked her to participate in the race, and she won. From that day on, Jean has been running. And just in so to say, I want you to know she came from Pearl High School. And in 1951, she was the fastest woman in the world. With that, I'll turn over to Melvin Gill and let him finish introducing Jean Patton. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bodenhammer. Before I read the resolution honoring Miss Jean Patton Latimer, I would like to make a comment about the Title IX program or law. Congress passed the Title IX law in response to the marked educational inequalities women faced prior to the 1970s. Before Title IX, women were often excluded from or had only limited access to educational programs. Title IX of the Civil Rights Act prohibited discrimination based on sex in education and programs that activities that received federal financial assistance was signed into law on June 23, 1972 by President Richard M. Nixon. However, Title IX began its journey through all three branches of government when Representative Patsy T. Mink of Hawaii, the first woman of color to be elected to the House of Representatives, who is recognized as the major author and sponsor of the legislation introduced in Congress. When she died in 2002, Title IX was renamed the Patsy Mink Equal Opportunity in Education Act. She was given the Medal of Freedom after her death. Now, I said that because I think we need to know the history of Title IX and who its major sponsor was. And at some point in the future, Madam Chair, I would like to offer a resolution that we refer to the Title IX law as the Patsy T. Mink Equal Opportunity in Education Act. And I will do that sometime in the future. And now, understanding that Miss Jean Patton Latimer's time in athletics and her professional career preceded Title IX, or preceded the Patsy Mink Equal Opportunity in Education Act. So I would now like to read the resolution honoring Miss Jean Patton. And if you don't mind, I will stand as I do it in my admiration, respect, and honor of Miss Jean Patton Latimer. Whereas the Sports Authority of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County desires to honor Nashville women who have achieved athletic greatness and or have opened doors, removed barriers, and encouraged participation in sports for girls and women. And whereas Nashville native Miss Jean Patton attended Pearl High School, where she excelled on the basketball court as a member of Pearl's standout girls basketball team, a team which lost a total of 4 games from 1947 to 1949 and went undefeated in 1949 on the way to becoming state champions. And whereas Jean Patton was awarded the Rare Work Scholarship in women's track from Tennessee Agricultural Industrial State University, now Tennessee State University, won the 100-meter dash in the 1949 National AAU Outdoor Championships, the 1950 National AAU Indoor Championships, and in May of 1950, led TSU to a historic victory at the 21st edition of the Tuskegee Relays. And whereas Jean Patton and Tuskegee's top talent were entered into the 1950 Los Angeles Coliseum's relays to introduce black athletic womanhood to the West Coast. And whereas Jean Patton stunned 50,000 fans with her burst of speed, upsetting the favorite Australian Margaret Jackson in the final 10 yards. And whereas Jean Patton was lauded as the world's fastest woman after her performance in the inaugural Pan Am Games in Buenos Aires, Argentina in 1951, where she won the gold medal for the 200 meters and the 4x100 meter relay, and a silver in the 100 meters. And whereas Jean Patton, after traveling to the United Nations and expanding the race and gender boundaries of American culture, returned to Nashville, where she was enthusiastically welcomed by TSU students and faculty, friends, and family for Jean Patton Day. And whereas Jean Patton Latimer, a certified recreational therapist, served children with special needs for over 25 years, coached Oklahoma's Special Olympics team in the first International Summer Games in 1968, and retired as the director of adjunctive therapy and HISM Center in Oklahoma. Be it therefore resolved, the Sports Authority of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County recognizes Jean Patton Latimer for her contributions to women's sport at the local, state, national, and international levels. Adopted and approved this, the 21st day of October, 2022. The Sports Authority of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County. Signed, Chair Kathy Bender, attest Secretary, and I cannot read that name. Now, I would
a Pan American, a legend. Jean grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, and attended Washington Junior High and the historic Pearl High School. She would earn her spot on Pearl's basketball team from 1947 to 1949, under the leadership of Coach Sadie Galloway. The team won back-to-back state championships in 1948 and 1949. Notably, during the 1949 season, the team went undefeated. More importantly, during Jean's 3 years on Pearl's basketball team, they only lost a total of 4 games. After high school, Jean entered Tennessee State University, formerly Tennessee A&I, where she became an extraordinary track athlete, excelling in the 100 and 200 meters and the 440 relay. Under the guidance of track and field coach Tom Harris, Jean would qualify for the 1951 Pan American Games. Her performance at the Pan American Games would earn her world record titles in the 100 and 200 meter races. She returned to her beloved TSU with a hero's welcome, being celebrated by the likes of President Truman, TSU's president, Dr. Davis, and hometown fans. After her college athletic career, Jean settled in Tulsa, Oklahoma. She would go on to commit her knowledge and skills as an athlete to her life's professional work in helping young people with special needs, where her teaching and giving has impacted thousands of lives. A testament to her many accomplishments is her family. Jean married her college sweetheart, Elihu Latimer, and to their union they had 2 daughters, Lisa and Patrice. Jean Patton Latimer is a woman of true grit, a woman of inspiration to men and women around the world. Congratulations to my friend Jean Patton. While I cannot be there, I joined the Pearl High alumni in recognition for your athletic accomplishments during your high school and college careers. Best wishes, Ralph Boston, Tennessee State University. Jean was a quiet force of nature that represented Pearl, our 1949 class, her family, and community with grace and dignity. We were all honored to see her in those prestigious moments of world recognition. She's one of us. Helen Peebles, Pearl High class of 1949. It is only befitting that her alma mater, Pearl High School, recognize their true Pearl to the world, Jean Patton Latimer.
It's on, you can hear me. Okay, thank you. Lisa, again, I am very excited to meet you. We've talked several times over the phone, and I'm happy that you and your husband had a safe trip. And we're all excited to honor your mother today. If you don't mind, would you introduce your husband?
I'd be honored to. But first, I'd like to say thank you very much. I'm humbled at the opportunity and the invitation to be here today to celebrate our mother. As you said, I'm Lisa Latimer Peters. I'm one of Jean's 2 daughters. And my husband, Wendell Peters, is here, who is her son-in-law. And my sister, LaRon Patrice Latimer, is with my mother in Tulsa, awaiting to view this tribute when she can.
Well, that's exciting, and we're happy that we're able to honor your mother today. I noticed on the slide that Ralph Boston paid a tribute. He was supposed to be here, but wasn't able to come. I don't know that many people know Ralph Boston, but Ralph was one of the most prolific Olympians in the history of the Olympiads. He won gold medal in Rome in 1960, the silver medal in Tokyo in 1964, and bronze in Mexico in 1968. Also, we were expecting Coach Cheeseborough to be here today, and she's here. She's way back in the back. Well, I wanted to mention her because there are parallels in your mother's career and Coach Cheeseborough's career. Both won gold medals in the Pan Am Games. Your mother in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and Coach Cheeseborough, I believe, was in Mexico. And Coach Cheeseborough also won 2 gold medals in the Olympics in Los Angeles, as well as a silver medal. In addition to that, they are fellow TSU alum. And I think that that says a lot for them. And I know they haven't met personally, but because of their history, I believe there is a bond that will begin now between the two of them.
If I can say this, my mother was at the Olympics in Los Angeles, so she probably saw the race.
Well, that's good.
Yes.
Okay. Now, in honor of the 50th anniversary of Title IX, the Sports Authority has honored a number of Nashvillians who through their participation and or support of athletics have broken down barriers for girls and women in sports. Your mother did this more than 20 years before Title IX. Would you speak to the barriers she broke for women, and specifically Black women, through her participation and in dominance of the 1951 Pan Am Games, which she earned her title of World's Fastest Woman?
I'd be honored to. Primarily, women's track was a white woman-dominated sport. The first barrier my mother crossed was to show the world that she was not only worthy of being a participant, but she made it very clear that she had the right to be there, and the records delivered the message loud and clear. Earning her place as one of the first Black women to get through the door even without Title IX, she made it happen for more Black women to be accepted based on their skills and abilities. She was determined to run to the finish with secondhand shoes, on practicing on tracks where she had to dodge holes, although not knowing that she was paving the way for internationally acclaimed women athletes like Wilma Rudolph. Finally, I'm humbled and very proud to be here today to pay tribute to my mother, who not only broke records, she changed the sport, set new standards, and dominated in spite of the challenges that she faced. I'd be remiss if I didn't express the heartfelt appreciation to those that believed in her, encouraged her, and proved their faith in her abilities by providing the resources to ensure that she could participate. And on behalf of her family, we thank you.
Welcome. And you mentioned the track with holes in it. I was talking earlier to Bert Nahiel about a conversation that I had with Coach Ed Temple. Ed Temple came to TSU on a track scholarship, And he told me that when he got here, it was one of the biggest disappointments in his life. The TSU track, which is in the football stadium now, was a three-quarter track. You couldn't run completely around the track. And that was very disappointing for him. And Coach Temple, over the years, created a track field for the students to compete and train. And I can appreciate what your mother had to go through in training and competing, knowing that you had to do the best you could with what you had. Now, if your mother could have joined us today, what would she say about this full circle moment of being recognized today at the exact site, Sulphurdale Park, where she was honored more than 70 years ago at the end of Jean Patton Day?
Even though my mother is not able to be here today, she would say, "To God be the glory." And she might tie it to a scripture, Romans 8:28, that says, "For we know that all things work together for good to them that love God and to them who are called according to his purpose." She say, no matter what barriers are thrown in your way, no matter what challenges you are experiencing, continue by faith because it's worth it. And she'd also make sure I let you know, thank you for recognizing and honoring her today.
She's more than welcome. Now, tell us the one word that best describes your mom other than legend.
All right. I'll say champion, because she's a champion in every endeavor in her life. Even today, she's proving herself as a champion. She was able to recognize that her success was anchored by the genuine giving spirit of the individuals in Nashville. If it wasn't for Lua Barkley at TSU, my dad finding tennis shoes for her to run in, or track shoes for her to run in, entering races across the country with Tuskegee's talent, and those who were surrounding her, keeping her grounded, and so that her accomplishments, keeping her grounded, so that if not, her accomplishments may have not been realized. So with that, she adapted an unselfish spirit of giving to others professionally and personally. So that's why I say the word is champion.
Thank you very much. And I'll keep the word legend.
Okay. We'll
Lisa,
take both.
Lisa, thank you again for being with us. It's an honor and privilege to be able to recognize your mother and to meet her through you and her impact on Nashville and women in sports. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you to the Nashville Sports Authority.
To Mr. Bodenhammer and to Director Gill for encouraging us to shine the spotlight on Ms. Patton Latimer today. You know, we had a series of Title IX celebrations throughout the course of the year. And although they ended, these two did not allow it to end, and we are so grateful that you stood in the gap and that we were able to learn her story. I'd also like to say thank you to Lisa and your family for traveling to Nashville to be with us today. We certainly appreciate it. We appreciate Coach Sheesborough, who is the men and women's track and field Director at TSU. We thank you for being here this morning. And so we have several copies of the resolution that we'd like to send back with you to your mom, your family. And please, please, please let her know that we so appreciate the accomplishments through athletics, but also her contributions to Special Olympics and as a therapist. So she contributed a great deal throughout the course of her life, and it's meaningful, and we are just so happy to celebrate her today. Thank you all for being here. With that, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, and we will hear from Monica with the Executive Director's report.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. You have the agenda before you. It's really straightforward, so I'm going to spare you the review unless there are questions. The one thing that I need to share this morning is that Metro Internal Audit has begun its review and audit of Geodis Park. We had an entrance conference on October 4th, which was attended by staff, our project managers, Ron Gobble and Jim Pashofsky, and Cole Durio with CPS, and Mary Cavara also attended. We also had an information session this past Monday. So the field work and a draft report is expected to be completed by February, with the full report issued in April. So that's the plan, and as we continue through the process, I'll bring back more updates. Are there any questions? Okay. If not, that's my report for today.
At this time, we will have consideration of a memorandum of understanding between the Sports Authority and Metro Water Service for stormwater permit compliance at Sports Authority properties. So Monica, if you'd like to make those introductions.
Those of you who were here last month, and especially those of you who attended the Finance Committee meeting, you'll remember that we had a brief discussion on stormwater control measures after learning of the need to repair and replace some permeable pavers over at First Horizon Park. We also gave a heads up that this topic was going to come back before the board. And so Rebecca Doan with Metro Water Services is here. You can come on up. To discuss the proposed MOU between Metro Water and the Sports Authority for stormwater permit compliance at Sports Authority facilities.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, that's better. Yes, my name is Rebecca Doan, and I work for Metro Water Services Stormwater Department. And Metro Water Services administers what is called a Phase 1 National Pollutant Discharge and Elimination System, long acronym, permit for the state from the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. So this permit is for compliance with stormwater runoff from the Clean Water Act. So one of the things we do require as part of this permit is for new developments to install what we call stormwater control measures in order to clean the runoff that comes off their site. So as part of them installing the measures, we also have to make sure those measures are maintained and continue to function through the years to keep that water clean. So previously, I think it was 2016, we had entered into an MOU with the Sports Authority that required the Sports Authority to inspect those stormwater control measures, maintain them, and also any new properties that came on, they had to have their design engineers record what is called a long-term maintenance agreement at the Register of Deeds that was attached to the parcel. And so since that time, we have decided to change our process and change the MOU. Now the new MOU has Metro Water Services inspecting those sites for Metro departments instead, so it's a better deal. And we also no longer record or require the recording of the long-term maintenance agreement at the Register of Deeds. We hold on to those agreements ourselves. And so those are the main differences between the two MOUs, and I am willing to answer any questions you may have.
Binders, right before tab 4, you'll see the stormwater control measure inspection report for this year, for 2022, that was issued back in March. And so on I guess it's page 3, you'll also see the list of the various stormwater control measures that are both at First Horizon Park and also at Nissan Stadium. So you can look through that.
Okay, definitely sounds like a better deal. So I will entertain a motion to approve the MOU between the Sports Authority and Metro Water Services for stormwater permit compliance at Sports Authority properties. Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next, we'll hear from First Horizons Park. We're excited to hear your report today. We're going to have Adam English, the General Manager, the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park, and Doug Scopel, VP of Operations and Assistant General Manager. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having my report here. I wanted to give you guys a quick recap of the 2022 season. It was a tremendous season for us. You can go to the next slide. We led minor league baseball in attendance for the second consecutive year. Thanks. We had 555,576 fans come through for an average of just over 7,611, or 7,611 exactly. You can go to the next slide. We also recorded the two highest attended games in First Horizon Park history, which was amazing. First, on July 16th, we brought in 12,409. And then on August 13th, again over 12,000 with 12,140 fans, both exceeding the previous record, which was the Sounds playing the Texas Rangers in an exhibition game. So these were just minor league baseball games, no major league team included. So really proud of our staff and our team for that. Next slide. We also had a great year on the field. We were the only minor league baseball team to top 90 wins. We had the best record in minor league baseball, 91-58, winning the West Division of the International League, and the second most wins in the history of the Sounds. Next slide. 30 players appeared both with us and the Milwaukee Brewers, and at one point, we also had 6 of the top 10 prospects with the Brewers with us, which led to a lot of those wins and the exciting play on the field. We did have some new opponents visit Nashville this year. The Durham Bulls, the Norfolk Tides, and the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp all came to Nashville for the first time. And we have released our schedule for 2023. We have 75 home games beginning March 31st next year, and excited to welcome fans back. We also had a historic year with some individuals on our team. John Singleton, who was voted by our fans as the fan favorite on our team, set a single season record with 117 walks. Our pitching staff, which was not highly thought of to start the year, actually recorded our single season record for strikeouts with 1,265. We scored a franchise record in runs with 809. And set the single season record for fielding percentage, 985. That's a good combination to win a lot of games. When you score a lot of runs, you strike a lot of people out, and you don't make a lot of errors. So, and then our manager, Rick Sweet, moves into 5th in all-time wins as a minor league manager with 2,192. So it's great to have him at the helm. We had more than 100 events out here at First Horizon Park. Some of them highlighted here: Bacon, Eggs, and Kegs, a brunch festival. In April, we obviously had our 75 home games. We had the Folds of Honor celebrity softball game ahead of CMA Fest, our Nashville Brew Fest, and then just bunches and bunches of private events held through the various areas of our ballpark. Which leads me to the next slide, which talks about some private events that are coming here. Starting November 25th, I've got a video for you to highlight Enchant, which is coming to First Horizon Park. So Enchant is the first of its kind, the original who created this Winter Wonderland Festival. Really great organizations. We're expecting a ton of people to come out here for holiday events and just a really good time throughout the holidays. Very excited. Tickets are on sale for that, and there'll be more information to come as we get closer. They start their load-in with us on October 31st. And then another popular event we have coming in 2023 that some of you guys might know about, some of you guys might not. If you want to go to the next slide, the Savannah Bananas. are coming to First Horizon Park, made famous on TikTok. It looks like baseball, but the rules are a little different. And once our team here is ready, I'll let you guys play a video to show that as well. Yes, that's a baseball player on stilts.
This game is called Banana Ball. We have 9 rules. Rule number 1, every inning counts. If you win the inning, you get a point. How do you win an inning? You score more runs than the other team. And the final inning matters the most, with every run counting as a point. Number 2, there's a 2-hour time limit. When we hit the 2 hours, boom, it's over. Unless there's a tie. And then it goes to our one-on-one showdown. Pitcher versus hitter with only one fielder. The pitcher has to stop the hitter, or the hitter has to score. Number 4, there's no bunting. Bunting sucks. We're eliminating it. All right, swing the bat. Next rule, you can steal first. If a pitcher throws a wild pitch, I don't care what count it is. All right, hitter take off. Number 6, there are no walks. Walks are now sprints. On ball 4, the hitter takes off to first. He can advance to as many bases as he wants, while the catcher has to throw the ball to every single position player before it becomes live. Number 7, batters cannot step out of the batter's box. You step out, it's a strike. Next rule, no mound visits. Coach does a slow little walk out to the mound. He's just delaying the game. Fans don't need that. We're done with that. And finally, what's the most fans first rule you could have? Well, let the fans actually play. If a fan catches a foul ball, it's an out. Everyone's trying to be a part of the game. Now fans can be. And that's Banana Ball.
So they will not be playing the Nashville Sounds. They will be playing, they have the team, the Savannah Bananas. They also have a team called the Party Animals. It's a unique brand of entertainment, and they're coming out here on June 2nd. There are limited tickets available. They announced that I think they're going to 30 cities this year, and Nashville was one of them. They're very excited to come here. I know Jesse. I actually worked with his wife early in my minor league baseball career, and fans will be entertained. So we're excited to host them here. There's potential for more than one game, but more information to come on that. Next, I'm happy to take any questions from the board. The first game's almost sold out. Almost. So like just a few tickets available for June 2nd, which means they'll likely announce another game. But don't want to bust that wide open or anything yet. So any other questions for me? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that banana ball might be a lot of fun, so that might be a good board outing. So next we have Nissan Stadium update. We're going to ask Deputy Mayor Sam Wilcox to come up. He's back with us this week, and also Tom Cross, I think, is here for the update. And just for the authority, we did receive some information late, and so please do not feel pressured to get through that information, because there will be additional opportunities to have conversations around this update. So, with that, Sam?
And I think we've got some slides as well. I don't know if you can, oh, okay, great. Perfect. Thank you, Chair Bender, Director, members. It's good to see you all again. Excited to present an update to you all on the Titans Stadium negotiation process. And I'm pleased to report, after months of hard negotiations, we were able to reach an agreement with the team on a deal over the weekend, which we announced on Monday. This morning, you all, I think, received a package of documents. Sorry for sending those all so late. But that includes a copy of the term sheet, a memo from Venue Solutions Group, which is the stadium facility consulting firm that you all retained, and a letter from Titans principal owner, Amy Adams Strunk. In a moment, I'll walk through some of the key terms in the term sheet, and then I'll turn it over to Deputy Legal Director Tom Cross to give you all an overview on what to expect in terms of timeline and documentation. But before walking through the key terms, I do want to take a moment and repeat some of the commitments that the mayor made to Nashvillians back in May when he published an op-ed in the Tennessean. In that op-ed, he promised, first, we would not raise sales taxes or property taxes in order to pay for a new stadium. Private funders, along with the tourism industry and visitors to the stadium campus, would be the primary funding sources for stadium construction. The Titans, not the taxpayers, would cover any construction cost overruns. In any new deal, the Titans would take on financial responsibility and risk for maintaining the stadium. The city would not sell any public land in order to finance this project. The broader East Bank campus would provide opportunities for high-paying jobs, green space, and parks, in addition to affordable housing. And finally, any new agreement would result in the Titans staying in Nashville for the long haul. I'm proud that we have kept our promises on all 7 of these commitments, and the term sheet in front of you all in your binder and in your email memorializes that. So with that, I'll jump into some of these slides. You can go to the next slide. Thanks. The new enclosed stadium will be roughly 60,000 seats constructed in the parking lots just east of where the current Nissan stadium sits. The project budget is $2.1 billion and includes construction costs, site preparation, demolition of Nissan Stadium, all public infrastructure necessary to open the stadium, and a reasonable contingency. As I mentioned, if costs exceed the $2.1 billion number, the Titans will pay those overruns. The team has retained Manica Architecture to design the stadium, and some of their recent projects include Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas and the Chase Center in San Francisco. Our goal is to have a new stadium that is LEED Gold certified. Next slide. The state has agreed to kick in $500 million. $840 million will come from football-related sources, including the team, NFL, and PSLs. And we're asking the Sports Authority to issue $760 million in revenue bonds to be repaid from available sources, including a new 1% hotel tax, in-stadium sales tax, 50% of the state and local sales tax collected in the 130 acres surrounding the stadium, the existing ticket tax, and rent from the team. In addition, the Titans will waive the $32 million roughly $32 million receivable they have against the authority right now for reimbursement of previous capital improvements to Nissan Stadium. And furthermore, the Titans will pay off 100% of the roughly $30 million of outstanding revenue bonds owed by the authority on current Nissan Stadium. Next slide. Now I want to dive a little bit into what we are contemplating for the revenue bonds. So for the authority issued bonds in this deal, the current term sheet contemplates using the following revenue sources to repay those bonds. As I mentioned, a new additional 1% hotel occupancy tax countywide, which per state statute can only go to fund the construction and maintenance of a new enclosed stadium facility. The second source would be 100% of the state and local sales tax generated inside Nissan Stadium and the new stadium, which again, per state statute, is only available to fund NFL stadium facilities. Third source, 50% of state and local sales taxes collected in the 130-acre contiguous area around the new stadium. Again, per state statute, those funds can only be used to fund NFL stadium facilities and infrastructure and other public improvements related to the stadium. And finally, the last two sources are a continuation of the current ticket tax, which is implemented in Nissan Stadium, and rent from the team. I'll let the Titans talk in more specificity about the significant resources the team is bringing to bear, but as a quick summary, the primary football-related sources will include team cash, secured loans, a loan from the NFL G4 financing program, and then there will also be a PSL program that will contribute to financing as well. Next slide. So we thought a lot about how the waterfall will work from excess revenues after stadium debt is taken care of. So once the annual debt service on the stadium construction is paid, any excess ticket tax and team rent will be directed to a maintenance and repairs fund to be used for capital repairs and non-operations related maintenance at the stadium. All excess area sales tax revenue will then go to pay for stadium related parking, infrastructure, or public improvements on the surrounding campus. Next, excess revenues up to a scheduled amount will be deposited in a capital repairs reserve fund, and any remaining funds will be deposited to a Sports Authority surplus fund to be used by the authority for two uses: either to pay off outstanding authority bonds early or provide additional funding to the capital repairs reserve fund. If we get to this far down in the waterfall, again, these revenues are directed by state statute to be dedicated to NFL facilities. And at that point, if the authority is still flush with cash, the authority debt has been retired, and the capital repairs fund is funded to 120% of the full scheduled amount. At that moment, then we will have the option to turn off the the hotel tax, repeal the additional 1%, and therefore you're not just locking up cash in an authority that we don't have a way to spend it, again, per state statute. We can't use it for other uses. Next slide. The Titans will be responsible for all costs of operating the stadium, including utilities, insurance, maintenance costs, capital repairs, and capital improvements. I do want to point out that this is a big change from the current lease, where especially the cost of insurance is actually borne by the authority and Metro. In this case, we're going to shift that cost to the team. Neither Metro nor the authority will have any obligation for CapEx at the stadium, except for the deposits available in the capital repairs reserve fund. The Titans will be responsible for all capital repairs. And to ensure the new stadium is kept in good condition, every 3 years, the Titans will engage an independent third party to produce a capital asset management plan to create and update a 10-year look-forward stadium maintenance plan. Next slide. The lease will be coterminous with the life of the bonds, likely to be around 30 years, plus three 5-year renewal terms. The authority will also lease the stadium to TSU as detailed in a separate agreement between the team, TSU, and the authority. The authority will also have use of the stadium for 5 civic events annually. And finally, the Titans will sign a non-relocation agreement that will match the term of the lease, including the extensions, to make sure the team is in Nashville for decades to come. Next slide. Metro will control the development of everything outside of the stadium site. Metro will pick up responsibility for infrastructure necessary for development on the non-stadium campus site development plan at the line outside of the box of the stadium. Metro, the authority, and the Titans will enter into a site coordination agreement to collaborate on site-wide development and campus operation issues. Metro, the authority, and the Titans will also enter into a separate parking facilities agreement. There will be a parking facilities agreement to ensure that there is sufficient player, coach, and personnel parking immediately adjacent to the stadium. And then the authority will also provide at least 2,000 additional surface or structured at our option parking spaces within the campus for on game day and event days for the exclusive use of the team, and on non-event days, exclusive use of the authority. And the revenue would follow that use. So on game days, the team would get revenue. On non-event days, Metro captures that revenue, or the authority captures that revenue. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tom Cross to speak a little bit about process and timeline.
Thank you. Good morning. I want to emphasize something that we talked to you a little bit about when we were here last month, and that is our commitment not to drop a large document on your desks and ask you to vote on it right away. So you're not being asked to vote on anything today. This is just an introduction to the term sheet. The expectation is that we will be back in November to ask you to vote on it and help us set our course going forward. But today it's just for information. The plan going forward is we expect to file 3 pieces of legislation tomorrow. We would be seeking the council's approval of the implementation of the hotel motel tax, which Sam mentioned a minute ago, as one of the critical funding sources for the new stadium, and 2 resolutions, one of which would help us, enable us to seek a development partner for the campus, which we also talked a little bit about last month, and finally, approval of the term sheet from the council as well. Again, we expect to be back with you at your next regularly scheduled meeting. We're perfectly happy to come meet with you again in between if you'd like to have a work session to go over the term sheet or other questions you may have about the deal in that time. After that, we expect to come to your regularly scheduled meetings between November and February while we continue to work with the team on development of the final documents for the deal. Eventually, we expect to be back in front of you asking for approval of what we're calling the definitive documents like a lease, a development agreement, parking agreement, a site coordination agreement, guarantee and other things that Sam mentioned, and we will be seeking council approval of those. We hope and expect in March. And at some point after that, during the summer, we're looking towards issuing bonds. So it's taken a lot of work to get to this point with a term sheet, but one of the advantages of starting with a term sheet instead of definitive documents is that some of the issues that need to be worked out have been worked out. We've got many rivers to cross to get to the definitive documents, but we think we've made a very good start. The Titans have been good partners as expected. We know we've got lots of other things that we're going to have to close up, and it's likely to take several months to do that, but we hope to do so with all possible speed. I'll mention that the last slide is actually a layout document that shows the site, and if you're like me, it always helps to have something to help you orient yourself to the way things are going to look. On this document, east is to the top. But that's how we expect that part of the campus to be developed. Thank you.
Any questions or comments for Tom or Sam from Director?
Yeah, thank you. I guess this would be a question for Sam. You said the $760 million in revenue bonds, they term out in 30 years, is that correct?
Sure. We've recently procured an underwriter to help us figure out the details of how that bonding process would work, but that's roughly the range. That hasn't been finally decided, but it would be roughly 30 years, yeah.
My next question is pertinent to the rent that the Titans would be paying. Did I understand it's simply defined as $3 per ticket sold regardless of the event, and no preset amount, it's just $3 on the ticket sale?
On the ticket tax or the rent?
The rent.
The rent would be roughly equivalent to that, yeah.
But it would be a binding payment, it wouldn't be contingent
Right, yeah,
on
it would
attendance.
be, right, yeah, so, what I have not been, I guess, privy to every discussion with our underwriters, but and I don't want to speak for our Director of Finance, putting all that aside. My understanding is that underwriters and people who buy revenue bonds do not have a preference between a ticket tax or a rent as long as it is legally enforceable, which we believe this is.
So the origin of my question is really that the stadium size seems to be going down 15%, something like that, right? 10,000 seats?
Right.
And so does the rent expectation then subsequently reduce because we're having so many fewer seats?
It's a good question. I guess I hadn't thought about it like that. I would say those decisions were made in silos. So the decision around the size of the stadium, I think there are a lot of variables in that, and I believe the architect and the team could speak to you about that, but that is a macro trend that we see across stadiums nationwide, and you're not seeing big, like 100,000 plus stadiums built anymore. It's more about having a more intimate, better fan experience with a variety of price points and experiences, and I think that's what we've tried to accomplish here. On the rent question, we believe that is a market amount, and if we felt like it needed to be tied to a higher number, I think we would have negotiated for that higher number, but this felt like a good good compromise on how to determine what fair market rent would be.
No, I understand a lot of variables
Yeah.
in this negotiation. I would respectfully request some clarity around it. Is the rent being directly tied to the size of the stadium? Because that's an interesting point for, I think, our
Yeah, sure.
body to evaluate. And then my last question is, and I don't know, you're the guy at the microphone, so you're gonna get this one.
Happy to.
The non-relocation clause, would that persist in the event of a sale? And that may be a question better for the Titans, but I assume the other tenants of the lease would obviously pass on to new ownership, but would non-relocation also pass on to new ownership?
Yeah, I think the specific language of the non-relocation agreement, we will finalize in definitive documents, but certainly the spirit of that would transfer. What we have discussed and what I believe the team has agreed to is that would transfer with any sale. I also, you all have a letter from the owner, Ms. Adams-Strong, and in that letter, she points out, per NFL rules, she cannot preclude
Right.
herself in any way. The league will not allow a non-transfer agreement, like, I think what we would like to see, and I think what you're suggesting. However, I think she is publicly committed to keeping the team as a majority owner. And so we feel like we're as protected as we legally can be, per city and state law and also league rules.
Understood. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Director Gill?
The 60,000 seat capacity for the stadium, is what? It's my understanding that there's consideration for possible Super Bowl games. Is that a fact?
I am not privy to those discussions with the league and how they determine the site selection of a Super Bowl, but we believe that we are building a enclosed facility that would be eligible for events like the Super Bowl or the Final Four or others.
Do you happen to know what the average attendance for Super Bowl games are?
Not off the top of my head, but I do know, and the team can correct me if I misspeak, but I believe the minimum attendance seat capacity requirement is around 55,000 to be eligible to host the Super Bowl.
And during the last meeting, I asked a question. I'm just bringing it up again, and you have an answer for me. Okay, and speaking of the concern about the potential sale of the Titans, now, this gets back to my question. If Metro could attain ownership, part ownership of the Titans, that would stop that, wouldn't it?
In theory, it might. What we have learned from our legal department and a little bit of legal research, it is practically impossible for the city under the state constitution to invest or buy a portion of a private business, as I think what your question was getting at. And so we are not contemplating that per state constitution.
And that's somewhere in the Tennessee Code annotated other than, okay, all right.
Happy to send you the documentation after, yeah. But I did do the research, yeah.
Two short questions. One is, the one-time state contribution, maybe you went over that before, but can you just talk to where those funds are sourced from?
Sure. The state legislature in April or May, the governor put $500 million into his budget. The state legislature ratified it. That $500 million has been appropriated but not necessarily allocated. We're working with the state to understand how they are going to pay for that. It's either going to be bonded or paid out of their cash reserves, is my understanding. Mm-hmm.
Second question is the backing of the authority bonds. Is that going to be Metro backed, or I know we talked about that last time, but and then also if it is or isn't, what's the difference of that debt service?
It's a good question. I'm always nervous to speak on behalf of Director Flannery, so all necessary caveats put forth. last time we were here, Director Flannery said, it is her goal to make sure that, to try and minimize the amount of Metro backstop needed in this deal, if not eliminate it. We're not going to be able to make a final decision on that until we're closer on the timeline to issuing the bonds. The Fed is raising interest rates. It's hard for us to know exactly what to expect when we issue next, hopefully summer. And so right now, we certainly don't expect that we're going to need to backstop. We just don't know. It's just too early to really know. And then this is going to be an unsatisfying answer, I think, but we also really won't know what the impact of that is on the strength of the bonds or the ratings of the bonds until we take it out. And we know what the revenue streams are expected to be more definitively in the spring. But it's still our goal to try and put a period on it. It is still absolutely our goal is to minimize the amount of backstop needed, if not eliminate it.
Director.
Yes, sir.
Online, that TSU will no longer have to pay an annual lease to use the stadium. Is that correct?
I'd invite the team to speak to that, but there will be a separate TSU lease agreement between the team, the Metro, the authority, dictating their terms of use, but it will be at least on par, if not better than what they have today. And I think there's an announcement later today about with the team that will speak more to their relationship with TSU and other community partners.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Talk a little bit about sorry, I'm out of practice. The capital repairs fund. I know, looking at the term sheet, that the commitment by the Titans is to wipe out the obligation that is on the general fund currently under our current arrangement. How about as we transition into maintaining our current facility as we're building a new one, how does that current capital repairs fund look? And then also transitioning, when does the new, aspirationally in the new stadium, when does the funding of a new capital repairs fund start?
Everybody's thinking about that problem. And the commitment in the term sheet is that we're both going to work together to minimize how much the authority and Metro are on the hook for during that transition period. So the emphasis is going to be on things like player safety and fan safety, rather than upgrades to things within the stadium that might arguably be within the coverage of the current lease. But we're acutely aware of that, and that will be addressed in the definitive documents. As to the second part of your question, the team is going to handle the demolition of the existing stadium. As soon as the new stadium opens, there are likely to be new revenues coming in, and your expectation would be we wouldn't need much capital reserve in the first few years. This should be one of the best facilities in the country, and you would expect that for 5 to 7 years, you're not going to need much in the way of capital reserve.
Call that similar to what we did for Geodis Park?
It is similar, yes.
And then the term sheet, that it's aspirational in nature. So again, as we work through and all these working documents that'll nail down some of these questions.
Yes, what is a bullet point in the term sheet becomes a long paragraph in the definitive documents. I don't want to minimize the importance of the term sheet, though. It is important that the Sports Authority and the council give us, clear direction in the form of, a supportive vote, so that we know that we're on the right track here. This is important for us. It's important for the Titans, who are spending money, as are we, and they're going to have to spend a lot more while this process is underway.
Civic Events, Tom, what is our current number of civic events annually?
Well, I cannot remember. We have several different versions of this paragraph in the various leases that the authority has, and in some it's 20 days, and some it's 5. I don't remember what it is in this lease, so I'm happy to look it up for you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, thank you, Sam and Tom. We've got one more. Okay.
With the PSL owners current and how they may be transferred over to the new facility.
question, so.
I've got lots of answers. Burke Nihil, President and CEO of the Tennessee Titans and Nissan Stadium. In terms of the PSL question, we're still working through details. PSLs will be a part of the new building, but it has been our objective from the beginning, from Amy Adams Strunk on down through the organization, that any transition to a new building will deliver respect and honor to our current PSL holders that they deserve. Many of those PSL holders were part of actually the journey of our team from Houston to Nashville by purchasing their first PSLs. So while there's still a lot of details to work through, one detail we have landed on is that every current PSL owner would be entitled to a credit towards a new PSL in the new building in line with the value of the PSL the year in which they bought it. So for example, if someone bought a PSL from the team in 2015 for $1,000, they'd be entitled to a $1,000 credit towards a new PSL in the new building. I have some other answers to some of your other questions. I come bearing news from Peter O'Reilly, NFL Executive Vice President of League Events, who says, there is no minimum stadium capacity that precludes a stadium from hosting the Super Bowl, America's most watched event. What I would tell you is I have absolutely every expectation. While the NFL cannot commit to those sorts of things, there's a process behind it. This is the type of building that will absolutely get a Super Bowl, if not multiple Super Bowls. No doubt about that. In terms of your question about capacity and the the number of events and capacity of non-Titans events in particular, first of all, it is absolutely an emerging trend and best practices to basically not build a building with bad seats. So you don't start off with an arbitrary number, an arbitrary quantity that you're trying to hit. I mean, that's part of the NFL's direction here around the Super Bowl. It used to be that they had a minimum quantity in mind, and they've gotten to the place now where they recognize we need to deliver a great experience. Every experience in the building should be great, and so you don't just build up into the upper corners to have an arbitrary quantity of seats. You just make sure that there's a great experience. So 60,000 is the number that we've worked with the best designers in the world, the best architects in the world, the NFL, others, and landed on this will be, our belief is, the best building with the best experience in the country at 60,000. We are also acutely aware of the fact that Nashville is a unique market in its ability to attract non-football events. And so we are trying to design a building that, while 60,000 capacity may be the total capacity for a football game, we believe that there's a building that can be creatively built that does not lose a speck of capacity for a concert, for example, just by how the building could be designed and how a stage could be set up in a different way than the stage today. So our expectation is between a building that is designed in that manner, plus having an enclosure so events can be happening all year round, that there will be many more people coming through that building than this current building today.
You may be in a position, I understood from the deck that the Titans rent is predicated on ticket sales and not a predetermined negotiated number regardless of attendance. And that's just what the clarity I'm looking for, be it Titans events or non-Titans events.
Yes.
$3 fee per seat, no matter what the event is, no preset number. And if we have 9,000 less seats, then conceivably we're getting less rent than we would in a similar arrangement in this building.
That's what I'm telling you. I don't think that's actually true, because capacity in our current building and in the format of our current building, one, there's less people coming through because it's not an enclosed facility, but two, the format of our current building, you can't get as many people into the building for a concert and the events that take up space with a stage. I don't want to give away too many details of a design that's still in flux, but imagine, for example, today you go to a stadium concert at Nissan Stadium, and the stage is set up on the field, which means the sight lines from that point behind, all of those seats are not sold as seats. Imagine if you had a stage that could crash back some seats, and now you can take advantage of many more people on the field, that are standing room and the rest of the building. So our expectation is that for those sorts of events, there will be as many people in the building as a current Nissan Stadium. So there's not a loss of capacity from that perspective.
Appreciate that. The other goal, I guess I'm trying to understand is, as our city is growing exponentially and the Titans are becoming more and more popular, are we going to be, because we're reducing capacity, are the prices going to be so high that the average Nashvilleian just can't afford to go anymore? I mean, we've got a diminishing resource. We've got more people likely over the next 30 years, certainly over the next 30 years, wanting to participate and you know, be a fan in that stadium. I just would like to understand if there will be some sort of plan for the everyday guy to be able to go to a game.
Yep, totally fair question. Let me start off by articulating another point with size, right? So one of the objectives from the very beginning, you know, this has been a process. Many of you have been on this board for a long time. There has been a financial concern relating to the current lease and the current building that we've been working really, really hard to resolve. And as inflation has you know, crept in and the transition to thinking about a new building, we had to really, you know, face a challenge in terms of how do we ultimately get to the ability to build a building. And one of the ways to focus on a budget-driven process for a building like this is to be really locked in on building a smart building that's the right size and not having any sort of superfluous space. That is how some of the buildings that you may have followed around the country over the last several years that have gotten built that go well beyond what they're budgeted, it's because they have superfluous space. It's just like if you were building a house, it's going to be based on cost per square foot in the end. And so the better fitting building you can build, the tighter building, it's going to be, you know, a better budget, right? So that's part of the analysis too. But we believe that 60,000 is the right number to deliver a range of experiences in a building like that. Will there be premium experiences in a building? Absolutely. Just like any NFL building or NHL building or NBA building, there's always going to be premium experiences. We are absolutely locked in on the other range of experiences, which you know, they may be social experiences, right? We're in a building right now that has a celebrated social space with very affordable tickets that is really, really popular in the bandbox. You know, we're inspired by finding spaces in a building like a new stadium that would follow a lot of those same principles. So we want to end up with a building that, with this 60,000 capacity, also offers entry points from a price perspective that are actually very similar to the entry points in our current building, which most stadiums would not have that as an objective. I really believe that. The data would show that that's not an objective of most stadiums. It is of ours. And it's important to us as an organization. Our mission is to win, serve, and entertain. And entertaining is entertaining this entire community. And so from our perspective, we don't do that if we don't have these similar entry points that allow, you know, people of all incomes to be able to afford to come and watch a Titans game. And by the way, I say that too, this is clearly, I'm a representative of the Titans, but we are envisioning this building as being so much more than NFL games, right? And so there will be opportunities to enjoy this building, both for ticketed events that have nothing to do with football, but we have some really exciting community uses in mind. Actually reserving specific space in the building for 365-day community type uses for job trainings, for job fairs, for classroom work, to teach financial literacy to adults and teaching kids how to code. We really want to not have the community see this as just the Titans football field. It's not at all that. This will be a building that can be used as the people's house. So long-winded way of answering your question, but we are absolutely focused on not, you know, pricing only very expensive experiences. We're very, very focused on having similar entry points.
I appreciate that explanation. Thank you. Thank you.
Director Jerry?
Has a Super Bowl ever been given to a city while construction has been going on with a new stadium? And if so or not, how many years out do they usually have plans for Super Bowl?
I don't, has the NFL awarded a city under construction? They have. I mean, certainly they're sensitive to wanting to be sure that, you know, the building is going to be completed. They usually want to have, actually, they don't want to be the first event through, right? They want to have a season or two to get the kinks out. You know, whenever this building would open, I would not anticipate that we would be on the short list for that year. But, you know, once the building has gotten the kinks out, I absolutely believe will be in strong consideration by the NFL.
Apply for that, or does the NFL just pick it out?
No, cities apply for it.
Thank you.
If it's of any interest in terms of background, I just mentioned Peter O'Reilly. The events team for the NFL, who make the recommendation to the owners of the NFL, who ultimately choose the selection for Super Bowls and drafts and combines, it's the same team that the team and the city worked with during the NFL draft in 2019. And so our relationships with that group are strong. We know how much they loved the experience in Nashville, and it went far beyond some of the data points of being the highest attended draft in the history and one of the most watched drafts in history. It had to do with the experience they had working with the city and working with community leaders and how the city embraced the event. And so that's part of why I have absolutely every confidence. I cannot make a commitment to you. The NFL will not commit, but I have absolutely every confidence that with a first-class building that I believe is going to be, I believe it's going to be the best in the NFL. I believe that this city is a place that they want to put those events as regularly as any city.
Grateful for this information, and we want to wrap up. I have 3 questions, and if it's okay with the authority, we're going to get those 3 questions behind us. And clearly, this will be a topic that we will want to revisit soon. So I'm going to start, Director here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I have a question. Are there currently, if you know, other stadiums being built right now for the NFL? And if so, how do they compare to the one that we're planning on building in size?
In terms of size, Buffalo recently approved a new stadium, and I believe it is actually 60,000 capacity. Their planning is still underway, I believe. Please don't quote me on 60,000, but I believe that it is. I would tell you that I know well other cities that are considering new buildings. I don't want to give you the names of them because I'm not sure the level of confidence in which they were giving me their thinking, but I have not heard of a new building that's in consideration that is more than 60,000.
Just quickly, I know under the current stadium, we've been chasing the quality standard of a first-class stadium. Is that the same measure we'll be chasing as we move forward under a new, and how's that defined? It seems like that's always been difficult for us to.
It is, and the shoe's going to be on the other foot now, right? Because now the city's going to be able to hold the team accountable to maintaining the building in first-class condition. I think while that's one of those bullet points that will be expanded to a paragraph from term sheet to definitive documents, I think we're going to learn from the current lease and just try to improve it and make it more definitive. But I think you'll see things like noting other stadiums that are being built today and you know, tying the general quality and condition and upkeep of those buildings to the building in Nashville as well. But the shoe will be on the other foot now. You know, there will be the Capital Reserve Fund that gives a head start, but ultimate responsibility for maintaining that building, whatever it costs, will be borne by the team.
Thank you.
Started with Director Hogan. We'll end with you.
Clearly worn out my welcome. I apologize. Last question, very brief. With the timeline presented, is the expectation that this building can be completed in time for the 2026 season, as previously noted?
I get an update every couple weeks from our construction manager. It is very possible. That's absolutely the goal. Look, there's months of work ahead before this is a project, right? At this point, it's a term sheet, and there's a process to go through with this body. There's a process to go through with city council. There's a process to go through with the community. And we're not going to rush that process. We're not going to rush the design process when we get to that place to hit a 26 open. This is not a building that's being built for a single season. It's being built for generations, right? But absolutely right now, 2026 is the goal.
And thank you for those, the information.
Thank you.
Clearly, this is a moving target, and everything's not finalized, and there's a lot of clarity to come in the future. So we will be reaching out to the authority. Not sure if it'll be a call meeting, but possibly a call meeting before our next meeting. So to be continued. Thank you for that update. And so this concludes our agenda for today. I'd like to thank the members of the board, the Sports Authority staff, Metro Finance, Metro Legal, our facility partners, team representatives, the mayor's office for being here today. And again, we're very thankful to the family of Ms. Jean Patton Latimer for being here with us today. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for Thursday, November 17th. We will let you know if there's a need for a special call meeting. So the staff will reach out, and if there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.